our students with disabilities has to be at the center, not at the margins. And so the space of how we move to keeping our students included is really the best path forward. We know from our data that students who are served in their least restrictive environment, so if we think about this in the letter A, B, C categories, those students in that A and B are serviced within their classroom in most cases, they do better. So our efforts to keep more students included, first and foremost, is a top priority. I will also just shout out the work that's happening in special education under the leadership of Lori Lynn Sutton, along with the work that Jalima Alisea, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, have partnered to be interrupting the silos of the special educations over here and general education is here. So how are we training teachers together? How are we encouraging the co-teaching where we're working for more inclusive models? All of those things need to continue to grow. The other piece I want to say to the community and to the public is to parents that it is so important. And I really want to, at this beginning of the school year time, remind our families to go and ask the questions about your child's plan, to ask the questions. And if there's something that is not feeling right or something that is not clear, to reach out to our Office of Special Education, our Parent Response Unit, because it is a lot to navigate and you shouldn't feel like you have to do it without support. And it's something that is very complicated, even for those of us who work in education, the different decisions we have to make or the timelines or the forms. So please, I encourage no family should feel as if they are having to do this alone. Reach out for help. We will be there to respond and to support, because I think to your point, it shouldn't feel like you have to fight for this. It should be something that is there for you, and we should partner with you along the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I guess we could also shout out CCAG too.
Yes, you should.
Like for them to get involved.
Good
Yeah.
friend. I know Mrs. Billups is here.
Yes. Well, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you very much. I think that averages can sometimes mask things that are happening underneath the surface. And one of the things I wanted to make sure we did is recognize the really high flyers. We have a lot of really incredible educators in city schools and some classrooms that are doing some phenomenal things. And this is not comprehensive, so I'm sorry for the people who I didn't get, but I wanted to just point out a couple of those data points. At Hampstead Hill, 68 of their students are taking algebra, and they have a 70.6% proficient rate. 70.6 in abstract might not sound all that impressive, but if you think about the fact that the state average is 26.5%. Montgomery County, the wealthiest county in the state, is at 35.7%, and you have 70.6% of your students. You're doing something right. City neighbors Hamilton, their third grade, 68%. Hampstead, again, their seventh graders, 64.7. Francis Scott Key and Hamden in their third grades in the 60s, almost essentially doubling up on the state. That's really impressive. Those are things to be very, very proud of. On the ELA side, the state average is 50%. We've got Medfield Heights and Thomas Johnson in the 70s. We've got Hampstead Hill again, Tunbridge in the 80s. We have Poly and BSA in the 90s. Montgomery County is at 57%. So yeah, some of those are admissions criteria schools, but a lot of them are charter schools, there are district schools, and there's really special things happening there. So I want to acknowledge that, and I want to come back and acknowledge more folks when we get the growth percentile, because that tells us yet something else. But my question is, what are we learning from these places? I mean, there's clearly something special happening with these teachers in these schools, in these classrooms. So what are we learning from these places that we are applying across the district? And are we getting out there? Are we celebrating those teachers? Are we celebrating those wins? This is really impressive data that I think you don't see when you just look at averages.
So thank you for naming those schools and those results, because I do think we are often categorized into the average space. So I want to just appreciate and shout that out. And there are others, like you said, that could be named in that space. We do go out and talk to those where we see those successes. Hampstead Hill is a great example. Principal Hornbeck has come in and actually worked with us and talked to us about things like staffing and how he staffs and how he thinks about math in a full trajectory experience. He's talked about unit pacing. He talks with us about sequence of things. So there's been opportunities, because you couldn't be more right. Going out and seeing where we're seeing success, visiting those classrooms, talking to those. What we see are highly skilled teachers who are using data on really fast cycles and working with their students, assessing regularly, not in a heavy, high stakes assessment, but more in a, let's check your understanding. Okay, you missed this one and this one, come back, we're going to get this. And there's some of these rapid cycles improvement, which we have moved into some of our larger scale work around having more frequent assessments, using that data to make real-time correction, using our adaptive platforms skillfully. So absolutely, we've got a number of places where we can go to learn from and improve some of those practices. And how we then can use, one of the great things our professional learning team has done is use those teachers as teacher leaders for our professional learning. There's nothing more credible than a teacher who's doing this work and being successful in city schools to lead a session for their peers. So we do that as well as part of our work.
I mean, I'm glad to hear that. I couldn't agree more. I think, and I would love to see examples of how we're elevating that leadership, because there's nothing more powerful than a teacher who's doing it. So thank you for that comment.
And one thing I would just, excuse me, can you hear me? So one thing that I would just add to that we also see is in those schools, the types of relationships that teachers have with families and how they are working together with young people and understanding their data, setting their goals, monitoring their progress. We also see that come through as a theme, in addition to things that Dr. Dabrowski named.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Kenyatta-Bay?
Yes, real quick. And because there are areas where we really have to put the pedal to the metal a little bit more. I would be interested, and I think this would probably come from human capital, really, of receiving a breakdown on the demographic profile of who we use and in those areas where we really have to push. Because sometimes the areas where we really have to push, we have to build those areas. And the teachers that we get and the leadership that moves us along. So I would like to have a breakdown of how the terrain looks at this time, because that will let us know in those areas whether we have the proficiency, to roll forward and actually grow those areas. So that is really my focus right there.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater-Harrington.
I just want to confirm that that's an action item, right? Okay. All right. Well, the whole Teaching and Learning Committee has spoken, so I won't belabor this because I know we're still early on in our meeting. But what I will say is I want to dive deeper. I want to know more about special ed. I want to know more about the analysis around learning to read, to reading to learn, that transition, and are there pockets or geographical concentrations where those things are happening? We don't have to get into all that tonight. And I just want to invite everybody that the Teaching and Learning Committee is meeting next Tuesday, September 9th. Do join us, because we're going to go deep in these conversations across time, and we're going to lift up what's working and hear more about that. We're going to have really thought-provoking conversations about things you all care about. So we all care about. So please join us. Shameless plug.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Simmons?
So I appreciate the schools that were uplifted by my colleagues, but I would also like us to kind of dig in, because those aren't the majority of our schools, right? And we really have to look a little bit at the investment that's going into those other schools, right? You name some charter schools, you name some schools that are in some pretty predominant neighborhoods, but what about the schools that are not in those neighborhoods that are not having the same success? So I'm not saying it's not to celebrate, right? But I'm also want to keep us real, right? The majority of our students and the majority of the schools are not those schools, right? And so how are we considering investment when it comes to those schools that are in poor neighborhoods that have a high population of Black and brown students? How are we stepping into that space? Because we can celebrate it, but there's also us not being true to the children that we completely serve. So
Can I respond to that, Commissioner Simmons? I couldn't agree with you more. And the thing that I said at the beginning of my comment is part two for me is looking at SGP data, which is how are you growing your students? Because it's one thing to say, I'm a selective admission school and I'm posting really big numbers. Well, you're bringing kids in who are already testing at a certain level. It's another thing to say, I'm moving kids from X to Y. And so when that data comes out, that's the other thing we need to look at. And there are bright spots all across the city, not just in the schools that I named. And so I join you in that. And I say, we need to pay attention to where kids are moving, not just where absolute growth exists.
and I want us to be clear, right? Many of us in the room are very aware of that third grade pipeline, right? And that selection of middle school and elementary school that gets you to those cities and polys, right? So I don't want us to have false celebrations, right? Let's celebrate. Yeah, we have moved, but there's a lot of work that has to happen. And there's a lot of young people that are being held who are not moving with these folks that we just celebrated, right?
Completely
Who
agree.
don't have that trajectory. By the time they get to third grade and they're not doing well, they're not making it to these bigger schools, right? They're not making it to the competitive middle schools. We talked about schools that had ingenuity programs in them.
Right.
You guys listed those, so those are schools that don't have that, and there are families that don't even know how to get their kids to that place.
And
So I just want us, all of us in this room, to be real about the numbers and the celebrations that we are having and how we have to make sure we keep on moving. We're not going to stop because a small percentage of students have moved. We want to make sure all of our students are moving in an equitable, whatever that means to anybody in the room, because it means different things to different folks, but making sure that we're moving in a way that ultimately moves our city.
agree.
Can I add one thing? So one thing I really do, I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't want to cut off anybody. So one thing I want to pick up on that I think is an important point that Chief Dabrowski lifted up is access to interim progress data, right? So we know that what we see at the MCAP is a result of a whole year's worth of work. And so it is important for us to look at that interim data that helps us to understand how we fine tune plans. We're not just waiting to the end of the year, which is already gone in the past, but we're taking real-time action to ensure that we're informing the plans that our educators, our school leaders are devising that will help us to close gaps for all of our kids. I think the most important thing that we need to understand when we look at data is where are the gaps, why do they exist, and why do they persist in our system in order to be able to target those areas for growth. And so that I think that's something we need to all be mindful of in terms of the work that's before us here on the board. Dr. S., I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you did.
Okay. Any additional comments this evening?
So I just want to thank both Chief Dabrowski, Chief Jones for their work bringing forth this evening, and to just reiterate kind of at least the sentiment that I heard from Commissioner Simmons, and that is how I didn't hear disagreement. I heard texture and I heard depth. And how do we query the data in such a way that we are celebrating the growth, right? But at the same time, clearly identifying the areas that we still need to work on, right? And it is why we have to hold growth at the same time that we hold overall achievement. And the great part about where we are, and this is the work of all of our folks at schools, all of our families, all of the support from Central, is that we have a trajectory of growth to build on to then dive more deeply into the questions of where is it not happening. And one of the reasons why in my opening with school leaders, right, Commissioner Simmons, I do hone in on growth. And people have asked me over the years, well, why don't you celebrate the people that are just high? And, one of the things I say is because actually, if you look at, for example, REACH, right, which is not entrance criteria high school, but is one of the 7 most improved high schools in the state of Maryland in ELA growth, right? And look at him. He's like, that's one of my schools. We're going to congratulate Commissioner Simmons too, right? When we look at schools like Dunbar, right, with high popping and entrance criteria or not, Dunbar was nowhere close to where they are right now. And when we look at schools, which I won't name publicly, but I could, who appear on the surface to be high performing, but they are not moving and they are not growing, we have to ask the similar question. So I actually think this discussion for me bodes well for the future of city schools, because it is the combination of let's acknowledge the progress, but let's also dig more deeply in making sure that every young person in every neighborhood across the city experiences that success. And I will just close with a data point that's not here, but that is one that I am most proud of this year, and that is Achievement Academy, right? One of our alternative schools for the first time in its history is offering advanced placement level coursework, right? That to me is just as significant. That to me, people like to throw equity around, and I'm so glad you said that like equity means different things to different people. At the end of the day, right, what do young people have access to? What do young people experience success in, and how are we judging ourselves by that? So I know it wasn't an official data point, but to me, it really gets to, I think, the point both you and Commissioner Lollinger were making, and that is we've got to spread the success. And sometimes, Achievement Academy did have some good gains last year. And what I think is really exciting is that their work in writing means that young people in an alternative school, who a lot of people write off, who are coming back from experiencing incarceration, will now have college level coursework that is equal to some of our entrance criteria. So I just want to thank the board for really digging in on this, and it's a both and you won't, like I said, I won't be here with you, but I am thrilled that this bodes well for direction of where we're going. So thank you all, and thank you both. And I will tell you, Chair, that is near the end of my comments. I will only close to say that I'm very pleased to congratulate Baltimore Polytechnic Institute and Baltimore City College for being named in the U.S. News and World Report listing of the top 25 high schools in the state of Maryland. I just want to congratulate the leadership, staff, and students of both schools for earning this ranking year after year. And with that concludes my remarks for this evening, Chair. I will pass it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Santalis, and thank you to the board for this robust conversation on student achievement this evening. I'll now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you would like an item removed, or please state your question for staff. 9.01, Policy KIA, Visitor to School Property. This is our second reader. 13.01, Educational Resource Strategies. 14.01, CDW Government LLC. Sorry, which commissioner?
1401.
Do you have a question or?
Want to raise the metrics and benchmarks we'll use around success. Also want to hear about the long-term plan for sustainability post-grant.
Got it. So for staff, for CDW, we want to look at some metrics when we get after public comment. Item 15.01, Swain Enterprises LLC window door replacement at Hamden Pre-K, school number 055. 15.02, E. Procorneus Construction window replacement door at Hamilton Elementary Middle 041. 15.03 Swain Enterprises LLC roof replacement at Paul Lawrence Dunbar, school number 133. 15.04 on-call architectural consulting services contract increase and extension. And that is it. I will now turn it over to the vice chair for public comment.
All right. We have a lot of guests today, so good evening, everyone. Please excuse my little stuffiness. Um, we are going to review item 7.01, public comment from recognized groups. We will now move to public comment. Public comment is shared by our district recognized groups and the general public. Representatives from our recognized groups will have the opportunity to share comment first for 5 minutes each. Afterwards, the general public may share. First, we're going to bring up Mr. Isaiah Gregory, President of the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, ASCBC. So while Mr. Gregory is getting settled, I want to publicly congratulate him on his election, and also I met him over the summer. His group won a pitch competition. They beat my youth, which I'm not proud of, but I was torn. I'm like Baltimore City Schools and, my youth, but I love them all. So congratulations, sir. You may begin.
Thank you. All right, thank you for that. Good afternoon, commissioners, students and family, community leaders, and school leaders. My name is Isaiah Gregory. I'm a senior at Baltimore Design School, and I'm honored to serve as the president of the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City for the 25-26 school year. This year is pretty historic. We have the largest executive board in ASCBC history, with more than 23 members representing schools across Baltimore City, including Baltimore Design School, Digital Harbor, Western, Leith Walk, Wood Home, Baltimore City College, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, and Frederick Douglass High School. So let's give a round of applause for that, because that's pretty big. Over the summer, the newly elected board also welcomed new members and appointed staff who was earlier recognized in front of the board. With such a strong and diverse team, I'm very confident that we will elevate student voices, represent our peers with excellence, and make this year truly impactful. Guided by our strategic goals, we will prioritize strengthening communication, broadening student representation, and ensuring students are present at every decision-making table. We will continue building partnership with student government associations, in which there are nearly 100 across Baltimore City. Engaging their student leaders through our general assemblies and state leadership conferences. And at the same time, we'll keep advancing the issues that matter most to city school students, such as access to mental health resources, school safety, and reliable and safe MTA transportation, and stronger communication between schools and families. This team has already been hard at work, meeting once in June to welcome our appointed staff and completing trainings in their specific skills over the summer. In August, we met for our leadership retreat, where we set our strategic goals for the year. And tonight, we concluded our meeting where we focused on launching our 5 committees, which we encourage students from all middle and high school to join, whether or not they're in student government association. We do this because when students lead, Baltimore future shines brighter. So thank you, board members, student and families, and community leaders who continue to support our vision. With your partnership, we will turn our strategic goals into action and making a lasting impact on Baltimore schools. Thank you for your time.
Next, we will have Christina Duncan Evans, representing the Baltimore Teachers Union. President Brown, you want to come up?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diamond Tate Brown, BTU president. I'll speak on behalf of BTU. It's been a good start to the school year. We have seen a lot of good celebrations going on at different work sites for our students. We are looking forward to all pay adjustments being made accurately. We have not seen many issues with the all across the board raises, but we are still looking forward to the summer stipends and additional work stipends being paid. There are some people that haven't been paid those stipends that did their work almost a year ago now. And, you know, if we want to continue increasing things like tutoring for our students, sports, and all of the other extracurricular activities that we know contribute to their academic gains and personal development, it will be important to make sure people are compensated for taking on those additional tasks, because when they're not compensated in a timely manner, they're less likely to continue to take on those tasks. I also want to urge the school board to advocate the best we can to make sure we get the funds from the state for our national board certified staff that did their maintenance of certification. If you guys look into the national board certification requirements, you'll see that it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. And people took on that work thinking that they would get an adjustment. And I know in the contract it talks about according to state law, which we didn't want, because of where we are now. But we hope that even if city schools isn't successful in getting the state to pay out those funds, that city schools will consider paying half of the maintenance of certification monies, which would be $4,000 of the $8,000 for the first year. So that we can honor the work our national board certified teachers did. One of the things Dr. Dabrowski mentioned was that one of the reasons that we had the academic gains that we're seeing is because of high quality instruction. And national board certification is a process that increases people's quality instruction. And we will partner with the board, district leadership, provide any support or actions necessary to be able to understand how we get the funds. Per the communications sent out by city schools, the issue was that there was a deadline that was missed. And so we are curious to know what was the deadline, how was it communicated, and because it was never communicated to us. And so we want to make certain that in the future, we're not missing any deadlines. And one way to avoid that is for us to better understand who is responsible for certain deadlines, how was it communicated to us, and if MSDE did not communicate a deadline to us, we believe we should hold them accountable for their failure, and they should pay out the funds to our staff members because they wanted to incentivize people getting their MBC. And now here we are with people being decentivized to get their MBC or to maintain it. And so I'm hoping that we can support each other in helping our educators get those funds. I also want to communicate that we have been working on getting more professional development for our paraprofessionals and school-related personnel. More and more, city schools is relying on paraprofessionals and school-related personnel to substitute, unfortunately. But since this is something that we are relying on, we want to make sure that our paraprofessionals and school-related personnel are receiving similar training or any training that would be helpful for them in the classroom. Yes. Oh, okay. Y'all called me up here. Psych. All right. Thank you. There are several other things I could discuss, but I'll wait till next time. Have a great night.
Thank you, President Brown. Next, we will have Miss Deborah Demery, President of the Parent Teacher Association.
I'm gonna try to take my time. Thank you. Still love you though. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. The mission of PTA is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate on behalf of all students. PTA means advocacy. So with schools facing challenges like shrinking budgets and a lack of educational equity, PTA is more important than ever. PTA provides programs on strengthening family-school partnerships and free resources for members on issues in areas such as STEM and health and safety. We welcome you to be a part of a powerful association that can advocate on behalf of children and educators at the local, state, and national levels. PTA means different things to different people. PTA has resources to help units create a plan based on their needs. Our new membership campaign toolkit, PTA for Your Child, is designed to engage and excite new members and existing members by making the work of PTA more visible and highlighting the value and impact of PTA. We invite you to visit the National PTA website for more information or reach out to me at president.ptacbc@gmail.com or ddemery@fspta.org. In closing, I would like to congratulate our newest local units, the Northwood Tigers PTA at Northwood Elementary Middle, their president, Sincere Hope, for her willingness to take on the responsibility, Principal Adams for believing in the value of PTA, and former Commissioner George Van Hook for his relentless pursuit. And blooming beyond barriers is the PTA, is the PTA designed specifically to service families of students with disabilities. It was interesting to see in the state of the state that those families need a lot of work. They need a lot of help. So this local group is designed for families all across the city, not just one particular school. Anyone can join this group. Schools must make families feel welcome and that their partnership is valued. That's extremely important. I get a number of calls and complaints because parents want to volunteer, they want to help in any way they can, but when they get to the school, there's a block. Nobody wants you there. We can't have that. So if you are a family with a student with disabilities, Blooming Beyond Barriers, or BBB, as Ms. Billups calls them, is the place for you. Last Saturday, they held their first event, a tribute to Michael Jackson, the man and his music. So thank you, Ms. Sheila, for her vision, Sheila Billups for her vision, dedication, persistence, and leadership in getting this group started. Everyone should have a Sheila Billups advocating for them. I applaud Ms. Billups and the Northwood Tigers PTA. She's worked tirelessly on this. She's worn me down till I had to just go ahead and get it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Demery. That's right. Come on up, Ms. Billups, Chair of the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee.
Greetings, everyone, both in person and virtual. My name is Sheila Billups. I am the chairperson for CCAT Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, and I'm also the vice chair for the PTA Citywide Special Education Committee. It's called Blooming Beyond Barriers, as you heard. Before I actually say anything, everybody in here know at least one person that has a disability who's receiving specialized services in the city or the state of Maryland. I want you to put them our way to the PTA. They're going to be training. There's parent training. There's going to be a possibility for students when they graduate have their own business, entrepreneurship. We're looking for grants and funding to support that. The earlier we start, the better it is. If you just tell the one person you know, at least one person, I'll be grateful. Thank you. Now, on CCAT, the first meeting will be held September the 8th, which is next Monday, in the third floor, room 301. Our wonderful speakers will be Dr. Santa Lisa's. She's going to do an overview of the next steps for this school year. She's going to tell us what she's expecting for this year, and we're going to do it. We're going to support. Great leader. And our overview of our special education department will be by our executive, Laura Lynn Sutton Platt. She got some wonderful things in store for us to know, and they're partnered with the early learning, and all of those groups together is going to make special education so phenomenal inside of Baltimore City Schools. We don't want to leave nothing unturned. We need everybody, boots on the ground, so we can get this done. And our next meeting, I even have our agenda for October the 13th. The overview will be done by James Pierce, Partners for Parent Response Unit. Every parent should know about the Parent Response Unit. It shouldn't be the best kept secret. That department is able to solve conflict, help solidify, understand the IEP, the process, and everything that's needed to move your student forward. You got to know about Parent Response Unit. Then we're going to have overview of the preschool program by Brad Petrie. I've been looking to hear from this department for a while and finally got them on the ground with us, and that's the ESOL program and the early learners. The early we get them started, the better it is. The better the information we know how we can help support them. The last thing I want to say, every student learns differently, especially the children with disabilities. They can't come to us, we have to go to them. When you go into their world, they will perform for you. They will make you proud. They would love for you to clap and enjoy their success. They can't come to you sometime, but you can always go to them. Go in their world, meet them where they are, and watch them bloom beyond barriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. All right, we're going to move into our general public comment section. We'll turn it over to our board office for more comment.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The first public comment person is Vincent Tola. They have 3 minutes. He has 3 minutes, and the topic is civil discourse standards.
Hello, it's on. Okay. Good evening, members of the board. I'm Vince Tola. I'm an English language development teacher at Patterson High School, school number 405. I have a few brief comments for the board. As a quick aside, I'm loving the new cell phone policy. Just so it's I think it's transformative. But the main reason I'm here is to speak in reaction to the communication sent by the district on July 29th and 31st in regards to the anti-Semitic incident that occurred on the July 22nd board meeting. First, I want to say that I largely stand behind the board and its handling of this incident. As you indicated, you're collaborating with law enforcement, which is investigating the incident as a hate crime. You're continuing the anti-bias and fair practices trainings for staff. You're employing more inclusive language and connections to the Jewish experience in social studies instruction. And you're partnering with Facing History and Ourselves, which has important resources for teaching history in its many complexities. And it highlights people who have confronted injustice. I attended the training and it was very good. Our presenter commented that he was quite impressed with the level of engagement of city schools teachers. Now, I do have some issue with the board limiting public comment to pre-recorded statements or statements made in person. But I get it. We need to prevent malicious actors from displaying hateful content. That said, I am glad that the city schools has affirmed its civil discourse standards, which honor the right of everyone to free speech and open expression. These standards maintain that we as educators need to model and support meaningful conversations that nurture respect, empathy, and critical thinking. And while individuals may hold passionate positions on issues, we need to create safe and civil spaces where students feel empowered to share their thoughts and are able to engage with differing perspectives. To that end, I hold some passionate views of my own about current events, and I feel the need to express them here in line with our civil discourse standards. I denounce anti-Semitism and bigotry, and I abhor any violence against any group. Therefore, I do imagine that there are other city school employees who are like me, who are witnessing the mass starvation in Gaza and are feeling anger and the desire to make it stop. We need to be able to talk about these things freely and openly without promoting hatred or bigotry. In fact, we can reduce anti-Semitism by speaking truthfully and compassionately. I have followed the events closely for the past 23 months. What we're seeing in real time is a policy of ethnic cleansing. The Israeli government, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, is making life unbearable for the civilians in Gaza. The war crimes have been astounding, and we cannot, as a world community, normalize them. They have attacked hospitals. Most of the hospitals in Gaza have had to shut down due to IDF attacks. Back in January, the IDF arrested Dr. Abu Safia. This was reported by NBC News. They have held him since then in torturous conditions. For what? For saving Palestinian lives. And he's not the only one. They have targeted and killed aid workers, doctors, nurses, and journalists. Several weeks ago, Al Jazeera.
If you could wrap up.
I will wrap up. I have two critical points to make, which is that this is a genocide. South Africa charged Israel with genocide a year and a half ago. But I want to salute those Jewish leaders, activists, intellectuals, and ordinary people who are opposing and working to end the horrific violence in Gaza. Many of the strongest voices against Israel's war crimes have been Jewish. And I'm talking about people like Norman Finkelstein and Medea Benjamin and Jewish Voices for Peace and other groups and the Israeli citizens who are speaking out against what is happening. Thank goodness for these Jewish peacemakers. They have chosen to see the Palestinians as human beings and are standing up for human rights. So while we work to stamp out anti-Semitism, yes.
2 minutes.
Okay, all right then. Just as a final point, no to bigotry, no to anti-Semitism, no to violence against any group or individual, yes to civil discourse, yet to meaningful conversations and to human rights. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Speaker for 3 minutes is Eliana Clayton, and her topic is the ADL complaint on city schools.
I just want to remind our public that the 3 minutes is really what we're allotting to each and every speaker. We want to make sure that you have an opportunity to express viewpoints and share information. While we balance just the number of public comments this evening, we just want to make sure that we adhere to the 3 minutes that's allotted. So thank you.
Thanks, Chairman Sally. I timed it.
Awesome.
Practice. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eliana Clayton. I speak to you today as both a Jewish person and the administrator in the Office of Family Engagement here at City Schools. I am deeply concerned about the ADL complaint to the U.S. Department of Education about city schools. The approach that the ADL suggests to remedy anti-Semitism will not solve the issues that may be present. In fact, it makes Jewish students less safe and furthers a political agenda that threatens to dismantle our public education system. I think it's important to name that I have not experienced pervasive anti-Semitism like they state in the complaint, though that doesn't take away from anyone else's experience. In my role in city schools, I work hard to ensure that families know how to advocate for their students and feel empowered to do so. And I'm a firm believer that all families want what is best for their child. I see that play out with many different advocacy methods. It is my experience that anti-Semitism in our schools, like racism, transphobia, ableism, and other forms of hate, happen as both peer-to-peer bullying and in systems through the stories and dynamics that we often unintentionally uphold. We must address this seriously, and it is a long, multifaceted, and continuing conversation, but the approach must unite rather than divide our city schools community. The ADL was an organization that my family revered when I was a child, but that I, like my family and like many American Jews, have turned away from. The suggested remedies reflect their political desires and are an explicit nod to Project Esther, a Heritage Foundation initiative using anti-Semitism concerns to restrict free speech. They have far-reaching and dangerous potential, using Judaism and Jewish people as a wedge issue to push a political agenda in the name of keeping Jews safe. This approach puts city schools on a list of institutions being pressured to yield to political agendas and curb free speech. This doesn't protect Jewish students or me as a Jewish staff member here. It weaponizes our identity. I know that separating Jewish people from other groups who face discrimination makes us as Jewish people unsafe. Solidarity is the only way through. As a queer and Jewish person who has prioritized bringing my authentic self to fight in solidarity across different and connected issues, I've learned that my safety comes through community, not through isolation. This truth fuels my work with city schools families as they advocate for their children. To the board, I urge you not to shrink away, but to stand up to the ADL. Fight for our public schools, our free speech, and hold on to that bigger picture. If you are truly interested in the safety of our Jewish students, and I believe that you are, you will work towards a response that holds this truth from Puerto Rican Jewish activist Aurora Levins Morales. No more taking turns on history's wheel, trying to collect old debts no one can pay. This time, it's all of us or none. That's how we protect our Jewish students. Together, in solidarity. In turn, it will protect us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker in person is Jacqueline Booth, and her topic is the ADL complaint at city schools.
Hello to everyone present and virtual. My name is Jacqueline Booth, and I am a Jewish Baltimore City resident, as well as a special education teacher up the road in Harford County. I came here to speak tonight about the ADL complaint about city schools made to the U.S. Department of Education. These allegations that they've made, while, understandably concerning, we don't want any students to experience anti-Semitism or any form of bullying or discrimination. Their allegations overstep in the ways that they attempt to resolve the issue. The first thing that they're trying to do is redefine what anti-Semitism is. That would be like trying to redefine what homophobia is, what racism is. If we change the definition, we change the way that we deal with it. What they are trying to say is that if you are someone who sees, as was mentioned, the devastating genocide happening to Palestinians, that alone makes you anti-Semitic if you acknowledge that. As a Jewish person who is working to try to find a more peaceful solution to end this genocide, that is just not characteristic of what is actually the truth of anti-Semitism. So if we change the definition, we're already losing the battle. There is a definition out there that is inclusive. It is called the Jerusalem Doctrine. That is a step that Baltimore cities can take to firm up both the ways that we protect any individual family or student that deals with issues both on the side of anti-Semitism and on the sides of the folks who are Palestinian or are affected by those issues. This Jerusalem Doctrine incorporates the complex history of both, the Israel-Palestinian situation and allows for opportunity to expand and deeply engage with what this issue means. Furthermore, we talk about educating our students and ourselves. There's a beautiful curriculum called the Parseim curriculum, where it talks about the liberatory framework of collective action. This kind of curriculum, as an educator, provides these rich opportunities to engage with this topic. It's not something to run away from. It's not something to avoid. It's something that, we talk about the history of the Middle East or Western Asia in our geography classes. We can talk about complex issues in a way that reflects the reality and truth for all students of all identities that we serve in our schools, while maintaining safety and civil discourse as well.
If you could wrap up, you've hit 3 minutes.
Yep. So with all of that said, I just wanted to offer some opportunities and resources that as we navigate this tough and complex issue, please don't cave to what the ADL suggests, and let's find a way to incorporate a Palestinian future alongside our Jewish students. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments this evening. Thank you.
Next person commenting live is Nicole Morse.
Leave for a meeting. I am Jody Zishin-McLean. Could I read their statement? Or give
No.
it to a commissioner?
We can have you submit that comment, and we can take that under advisement, but we can't switch out public commenters this evening, but thank you. Yep. If you have it written, you can submit it to our clerk here, and she can take that.
I have it in a text.
Or you can email. We'll get you the email
Afterwards, I will
address.
come to you and get the information from. The next person, it will be an email that I will read from Kadeem Balak. I hope I'm.
here.
Oh, you're present?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening. I speak tonight as an educational equity leader, member of the Equity Advisory Committee, school-based leader as the Equity and Student Homeless Coach at Roland Park, formerly Dean of Equity and Anti-Racism at Digital Harbor. Elena Aguilar reminds us that educational equity means every child, every day, receives what they need to thrive, socially, emotionally, and academically in loving community. City Schools has taken several steps toward that vision over my tenure. Be More Me, IRES, and the greater work of the Office of Equity, the prioritization of SEL and student homeless, targeted initiatives like EWI and the Writing Revolution, racially disaggregated data analysis, an emphasis on restorative practices, and even the conversation tonight. These all reflect a system striving to prepare all young people for a just future. As Malcolm X said, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And that passport must be rooted in justice. We must denounce anti-Semitism, full stop. At the same time, I am deeply disturbed by the ADL complaint against City Schools. The ADL conflates anti-Semitism with political critique of Israel and the ideology of Zionism. This conflation is deeply dangerous. It risks silencing conversations about justice and global solidarity that our students must engage in to become, in the words of our Portrait of a Graduate, responsible and global citizens. We cannot ignore the reality. In Israel's US-funded genocide on Gaza, 83% of those murdered are civilians, 38% are children. Children have been sniped seeking aid. Forced starvation is rampant. Journalists have been assassinated for documenting these crimes, and in this media blackout, Gaza is being razed to the ground. These atrocities have nothing to do with Judaism and everything to do with Israel as a colonial and genocidal state acting with impunity. Malcolm X called Zionism, quote, a colonial and imperialist project. Angela Davis has shown how the Palestinian struggle is bound to the struggle for Black lives. And Baltimore's own Ta-Nehisi Coates recently wrote, quote, I don't think I ever in my life felt the glare of racism burn stranger and more intense than in Israel. I urge this board to adopt the Jerusalem Doctrine definition of anti-Semitism, quote, discrimination, prejudice, hostility, or violence against Jews as Jews. This protects Jewish staff and students while ensuring critique of a foreign nation's policies are not mischaracterized as wanton prejudice. If we are serious about equity, and this district has shown that we are, we must name anti-Semitism, racism, patriarchy, and colonialism together, and teach our young people to challenge them all. That is how City Schools lives up to its promise of equipping all students with the life skills and academic foundation needed to contribute to our changing society. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
The next is a video from Margot Goldberg. It's about the ADL's recent civil rights complaint to the U.S. Department of Education against city schools.
Hello, my name is Margot Goldberg. I am a teacher at Western High School and a parent of 2 children attending Mount Royal Elementary Middle School. I am submitting this comment to say that as a Jewish educator and parent, I have not experienced a pervasive hostile environment of anti-Semitism, as the Anti-Defamation League's recent civil rights complaint alleges that City Schools has created. I know I am not alone. I have spoken to many of my Jewish colleagues and fellow Jewish families whose children attend city schools and have heard and experienced stories of acceptance, inclusion, and celebration. This is not to say that I believe that the allegations made by city schools families within the ADL complaint do not merit good faith investigations that result in truth, justice, and long-term sustainable repair for those families and their school communities. They certainly do. However, given the ADL's track record of using allegations of anti-Semitism to silence protected speech in schools and on college campuses, discrediting Palestinian, Black, Arab, and Muslim voices, and offering cover to political allies, I simply do not trust this organization to handle these allegations with the care and respect that they deserve. I only have to recall the ADL brushing off Elon Musk's clear Nazi salute at a Trump inauguration event less than 1 year ago to think these folks cannot be serious about combating anti-Semitism or discrimination of any kind. Reading the first 2 remedies offered by the ADL in their complaint clearly shows what they are after. In its first remedy, the ADL demands that the district adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IHRA, definition of anti-Semitism, which conflates criticism of the State of Israel with anti-Semitism. Adopting this definition would render much legitimate criticism of the State of Israel as anti-Semitic, thus significantly impeding both education and protected speech in schools. In the second remedy offered, the ADL suggests that city schools use its anti-bias curriculum, No Place for Hate. Neither of these 2 top remedies centers the families in the complaint, but rather centers the changes that the ADL wants to see in our schools. As a Jewish educator and parent, I am imploring the board, do not cave to these demands. Do not allow the ADL to bully us into putting its political agenda above the well-being of all of our families. Let's work together to build systems and processes so that all complaints of discrimination can be addressed with care, expedience, and justice. Thank you.
The next in-person comment is from Daryl Moore. His topic is renaming Northern High School.
Good afternoon, Madam CEO, board members, staff, and guests that are assembled here this afternoon. My name is Darrell Moore, and I'm joined with Sheila Toon, graduates of the Baltimore City Public School System, and Northern Vikings Alumni Committee members. We sit before you along with some of our fellow Northern High School alumni. Would you all please stand? To provide any clarity and ask for your support with a proposal we emailed to you all on August the 10th, 2025. To give a brief overview, Northern High School was located in the building at 2201 Pinewood Avenue. It opened in 1965 and quickly became a cornerstone of academic and cultural progress in Baltimore. By 1969, it boasted its largest graduating class in the city's history with over 1,000 students. Northern was more than a school. It was a symbol of integration and opportunity. It was known for its strong college prep and work study programs, launching students towards both higher education and workforce. In the 1970s, brought significant overcrowding, forcing Northern to operate in split shifts for several years. Despite these challenges, it continued to serve thousands of students, including my own mother and former Mayor Jack Young, who both graduated with the class in 1973 at the Civic Center due to the class's massive size. In 1997, the school faced new challenges, including discipline issues and a mass suspension that made national news, which Sheila and I both witnessed. Ultimately, Northern High School was closed in 2002, splitting the school into 3 schools. The building now houses 2 other educational programs, Success Academy, Achievement Academy, along with Reginald. You may ask us why now? Why over 20 years later to ask for this change? My answer would be because legacy matters and the time to honor it is never too late. The school's legacy deserves to be remembered, not erased. While it is true that the school faced challenges in its past ranging from academic performance issues to social concerns, it also produced thousands of graduates who went on to succeed in careers, service, and leadership roles. The name, while controversial to some, is deeply rooted in the identity of the surrounding neighborhoods and the alumni. The proposal to incorporate the Northern name thoughtfully acknowledges the importance of the legacy while fully respecting the unique identities of the 3 schools currently housed within the building. It does not seek to replace the individual names, missions, or cultures of these schools, but rather to celebrate them alongside Northern High School. In this way, the name becomes our identifying symbol, honoring the past while supporting the present and future. Reginald F. Lewis at Northern, Success Academy at Northern, Achievement Academy at Northern. So we come to you today, not just with a request, but with a vision to make sure Northern High School's legacy is rightfully and respectfully remembered for generations to come. To add, we have read the renaming policy guidelines and submitted the request to the current administration. We received an email from the current principals to meet this Friday to find out their decisions. We also have letters of support from Hamilton Hills Neighborhood Association president, as well as Senator Corey McCray and Delegate Jackie Addison, who attended the school, along with Delegate Kaylin Young. Thank you for your time and consideration. We welcome your questions and look forward to working together to make this meaningful change happen.
Thank you.
The next in-person presenter is Jeremy Levenger. His topic is the Anti-Defamation League case with Baltimore City Schools.
Thank you. Thank you all and good evening. My name is Jeremy Levenger and I'm one of the post-secondary advisors at Paul Laurence Dunbar High School in Baltimore. I'm a proud Jewish American who openly speaks about my identity with my students and staff, and I do not feel discriminated against in any way in my workplace. I've also worked at 4 other Baltimore City public schools over the last 5 years in all corners of the city and have not seen or heard any discrimination towards Jews in any of the other 4 schools either. I am saddened to read about the experiences of some of the Jewish students in Baltimore, and I do believe serious action should be taken to educate our communities on anti-Semitism. Yet, safety for the Jewish community will come through solidarity with all other groups of people, especially those who have been historically marginalized or faced oppression in this country. Instead, the Anti-Defamation League report on Baltimore City Public Schools makes some alarming insinuations, seeming to suggest that comparing another group's suffering to Jewish suffering is within itself anti-Semitic, which is ridiculous. I also think it's necessary to call out the thinly veiled elephant in the room. We are in the midst of a national crackdown on anti-Zionist sentiments and expressions, which includes an aggressive and well-funded lobby consisting of AIPAC, the ADL, and other organizations. The main goal of this movement is to force the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism upon communities. This definition intentionally labels a lot of criticism of Israeli policies as anti-Semitic and attempts to silence Jews like myself who dare to see any similarities in how my ancestors were murdered by Nazis and how Palestinians are systematically killed by Israel today. We have seen universities at the highest levels defund diversity-based initiatives and change names of multicultural student offices to seem race-neutral, all while Hillel and Chabad Jewish campus groups have received increased funding and protections. By seemingly placing Jewish oppression on a pedestal above other oppressions, cross-cultural connections between historically oppressed groups are deterred, and Jewish students risk becoming a type of social pariah and facing more isolation. Furthermore, false claims of anti-Semitism, related to criticism of Israel directly distract from actual cases of anti-Semitism and make them harder to address when they occur. One clear solution for BCPS is education that promotes diversity, cross-cultural connections, and sincere dialogue. This curriculum must include information on all forms of bias, including Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian beliefs. The ADL is not a qualified organization to deliver such education due to their political bias and anti-Palestinian stance, which is why the largest union in the United States, the National Education Association, voted to cut ties with them this year in June. For example, out of the alleged 227% increase in so-called anti-Semitic incidents that the ADL found since October 7th of 2023, the vast majority of these alleged incidents relate to speech supporting freedom for Palestinian people. Thus, I strongly oppose adopting the insincere IHRA definition of anti-Semitism and instead propose adopting the Jerusalem Declaration of Anti-Semitism, which strongly addresses it while protecting freedom of speech. Additionally, the Parseo curriculum titled Anti-Semitism from a Framework of Collective Liberation is an excellent tool to educate our communities and build safe and respectful schools for all students. To end, I just want to say thank you for hearing my words, safety through solidarity, and reject the Anti-Defamation League. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comment. Last week, Chair Robert Sally was able to attend one of our neighborhood association events in Northeast Baltimore and meet with parents and stakeholders of a variety of city schools. I don't know if this is a codified practice within the board, but I would highly recommend that all board members regularly try to connect with community associations and parents across the school district. One at the best way parents can gain more immersive understanding and additional context surrounding board priorities and other significant items of public interest. If any of the board members have not been to a neighborhood association meeting, I would strongly urge them to be proactive and create a dialogue with the membership of those associations and have regular informal conversations with these stakeholders, as well as with your parent-teacher associations at any city school. I want to make clear to the board that we are highly invested in the success of our institutions, and we hope to have a great school year.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. We're now back at item 9.01. We're going to go back to, which is the consent agenda. We're going to review item 14.01, CDW Government LLC. Is it someone from the staff that can answer Commissioner Mohammed's question? No. You want to push it? Yeah, he's one.
So let me just channel Commissioner Mohammed. I think what he was asking for a couple of clarification points on performance standards for this particular contract. We recognize fully that this procurement is coming before the board on an emergency basis. So we want to make sure that we have just some greater insight in terms of how city schools will ensure our vendor, if approved this evening, will be able to perform against city school standards.
And I took a couple of notes. So he specifically asked about metrics, benchmarks, and sustainability.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elvis Tier, Executive Director for Cybersecurity for Baltimore City Schools. To answer the first question in terms of measuring success with metrics, first of all, I would say of several hundred applicants nationwide, there were 2 school districts in the state of Maryland that was awarded this grant: Baltimore City Public Schools and Dorchester County School System. Additionally, the success will be measured by the way we're going to identify data that is being displaced throughout our district. Currently, we have users that have data placed into various locations in our environment, sensitive information. And the purpose of this grant, which is called DLP, Data Loss Prevention, is to make sure that we identify where all of our sensitive data is being placed to give us the ability to make sure we apply the necessary restriction and approve us for data that should be extracted from our environment. So that's one of the first way we're going to be able to measure. Currently, we have few tools, but we don't have the kind of tool that this grant is going to give us to be able to protect our entire environment. The next question in terms of how we intend to sustain this this grant after it has expired within 3 years, because this is a 3-year grant. We currently have a lot of silo solutions within our environment, within OIT, which we believe we can discontinue to be able to accommodate the cost for this grant. So in short, what I'm saying is that there are a lot of cybersecurity applications that we have, but they are not centralized. With this grant, this solution will centralize everything. And one of the assistance we're going to get from that is that because of our staff, we do not have a lot of staff. With a centralized solution, it puts us in a better position to be able to take necessary action to protect our environment. So again, our long-term sustainability strategy is to make sure that the silo solutions that we currently have will be replaced by the solution that this grant will provide. So we will be discontinuing most of our services we have to save the money we get from that funding to support this grant.
Do we have currently a plan or a process at the end of this grant? We will, I know we'll lose 90% of the subsidy. Are we going to spend that time in identifying other funding sources so that we can actually continue to have this resource? Because I think it's very important. And I think one of the reasons that I pulled it is that it's important for our school community to know the effort that we're making to ensure as a district we're secure. And I want to thank the department for securing this, but just pushing to ensure that we continue it. Is that part of the plan? And if not, can we make it a part of the plan? Because I don't want to see this just go away because the subsidy goes away.
Commissioner Mohammed, it is part of the plan. Our intention is to keep it. If you go back into OIT's history, every grant we got, we always make sure when it comes to our infrastructure, we always have a strategy to maintain after the grant has expired. If you go back to I'll give you a typical example. We had a grant for our voice over IP system that is used throughout the district. We had a strategy. By the time the grant got out, we were able to even save more than what the grant was giving us in terms of discontinuing unnecessary phone lines and migrating to voice over IP from Verizon services. That saved us pretty close to $1 million. So we already do have a plan. Even before this approval today, we hope we will get approved. We have started, we bid out our internet service. From that bidding process alone, we were able to save close to $70,000. That's just one example I'm giving. And as I said previously, before you walk into the room, of several hundred school districts that apply in the state of Maryland, there were only 2 schools, and we were one of them because it was a lot of work we had to do to be given this grant. And we intend to keep this. Additionally, there are a lot of things we have in our environment that we're using that are silo. That means they don't talk to each other. Our intention is to have a centralized solution so that we will be able to react quickly because things are changing in the world so quickly. Only automation can help protect our environment. I know we are short-staffed, but it's good to have more people. But if you have a centralized system that tells you a lot, you can react, you can be more proactive than being reactive. So that's where it's going to put us.
Thank you much. I think that this helps just keep us at a place where we can continue to work towards being secure as a district. I think that we all know that in today's technology world, that there are always threats, and we experienced them as a district last year. But highlighting the importance of your work and your leadership in this, I think that as a district, we should feel as though we have a staff that is focused on our security digitally, and that should be important to all of us, both as adults and our scholars. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Any other questions? Any other items based on public comment that we would like pulled? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve item 9.01, policy KIA, visitors to school property, second reader?
So moved.
Thank you. The entire consent agenda. Thank you, Esposito. Is there a second? All in favor? It was you? All right. Commissioner Simmons, I'll take this time. All in favor, Chair Sally?
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger? Oh, I'm sorry. She's absent. Commissioner Chicas Guzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Retton Lallinger?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yes.
And I am also in favor. That motion passes. If you're not, I can. All right, we ready? We are now going to go into information and discussion. Item 5.01. We will hear a presentation from Dr. Tracy Durant, Senior Executive Director of the Office of Equity.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening again, Tracy Durant, Senior Executive Director, Equity. Tonight I will be making two presentations. One will be our compliance report for the year, at which time I'll pause briefly for questions and then provide a more comprehensive. Here are our board's strategic priorities and the competencies of a graduate. Section 5 of Policy ADA is our compliance section, and so this part of our presentation will provide more detail about the alignment to our annual school performance plan, the work of the Equity Advisory Committee, and then this report that we are to provide to the board by August 31st year. I want to remind the commissioners and the public that our definition, our grounding of equity success has always been centered around the educator's personal connection to the work, the institution's embrace of systemic change and progress, and then what we do every day as teachers and administrators. Our motto for the office has been systems don't change until people do. We have a fundamental belief that individuals have to be different in their person so that they can lead differently in their roles, which ultimately impacts our organization. Here are the policy standards in Policy ADA, and so the capacity building of individuals to lead from their respective seats has been the cornerstone of our work. In terms of strategic implementation, per our implementation plan, we spend a considerable amount of time on professional development and strategic planning. Our environmental change theory activities are around professional development, consultation, coaching, and strategic planning. And each of these inputs is really designed to create a broader organizational shift throughout city schools. Our effectiveness model has been centered around this multifaceted approach. Last year, we tracked over 2,000 engagements in alignment with our organizational change theory activities. This is not a full comprehensive list because the office and members of the team are often called to support other offices across the organizations and our school-based leadership. Our environmental change theory activities, again, include a professional development, consultation, and strategic planning. One of the other pieces of work that we support strategically through the organization, and this is partly a lot of the work that I lead daily, as well as the director on our team, Chidamawe Daka Mwanda, is in terms of incident response, both at the school level and at the district level. Here are examples of the kinds of professional development that our team led last year. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just an example of the opportunities that have been afforded to the district from the Office of Equity. In terms of strategic planning, we spent time, and you'll hear a little bit more about our central office equity considerations, the work that the specialists do with equity action planning, the work around our leadership tracking system and fellows and our school equity action team, consultation across many different offices within our organizations, differentiated based on the needs of those offices. Our foundational seminar, the Introduction to Racial Equity seminar last year, we had over 212 individuals participate in that training. Last year, we launched IRES 2.0, which is a deeper way to go into some of the work that we had already done in IRES 1.0. This year, we will sunset IRES, as most people know it, so that we can align to the new state law requiring anti-bias training across the organization with specific focus on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. The members of our Equity Advisory Committee, their names are on the screen. You've actually seen 3 of them tonight, 1 in public comment and 2 of our ASCBC elected and appointed members. Here are some of the ways that we have influenced policy this year. So Equity Advisory Committee is the group for whom colleagues, when they are bringing forth policies to the board, they come to the Equity Advisory Committee for feedback, for input, for review before going to the policy committee and then eventually to the board for adoption. Here are just a few examples of other policies that have been aligned to Policy 80A just in this last year. So the school performance plan and equity considerations, one of the pieces of our compliance is this alignment to school performance plan goals. It took us a few years in partnership with our colleagues in academics and schools and achievement and accountability to make sure that we had schools that were including equity considerations in their approved school performance plans. There's an alignment to the work of our school equity action team and our specialists, which you will hear a little bit more about shortly. This year, we also, with the ability to hire a central office equity specialist, were able to begin the work that is also identified in our policy around alignment of key performance indicators and equity considerations at the central office level. And so our central office specialist launched that work this particular year. One of the things that I'll say that there are a lot of requests that come into office for consultative support, for strategic planning support, for thought partnership. And so now we have a dedicated person who is able to support that individual work. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to pause there for one moment. That completes the compliance portion of the presentation, and the more comprehensive update will follow. So, Chair Sally, I'll entertain any questions right now.
Are there any questions from board colleagues this evening on the compliance report? Going to underscore the good work that we see resonated in a number of ways across the district. So we do appreciate the work that all of your colleagues within the office are leading and how that impacts student achievement. So it's evident.
Our CAO will not appreciate the language I'm gonna use, but you ain't seen nothing yet. So now here's what we get most excited about. I want to take a moment and share here the members of our team. I'm going to ask that the members of my team who are present, please stand at this time so that you will see them. Thank you. So we're going to go through each of the bodies of work that we are charged with leading across the organization. First up is our Be More Me work that is led by Program Manager James Berkman. We always kind of start our Be More Me presentations reminding us of what the intent of Be More Me was. And I think a lot of the public comment tonight really speak to the kind of culture that we are trying to sustain here in city schools that help our young people have a connection between their learning and what they experience every day. In terms of our curriculum, here are the Be More Me sites that we were able to stand up this year. This work in Be More Me has been a partnership for many years in the Office of Academics and Teaching and Learning with our social studies partners. The work lived there initially, and then for a short period of time, curriculum components have been with our office, supported by James and supervised by Chidamawe Dakamawanda. This past year, we were able to engage 5 Be More Me coaches. We had teaching fellows. There were professional learning and professional development sessions, coaching observations, and then teacher-student surveys. You'll see that over the years, and you'll see this kind of data across our presentation tonight. We've had an increase in the number of teacher surveys. We've had an increase in the number of student surveys. The feedback that we get from the people that are involved really speaks to what we've been able to accomplish in the organization. This particular teacher coach, Ms. Richburg, says this experience showed her growth and journey as a teacher, to move from teacher to teacher lead to teacher coach. And you know, that's the end game for many teachers, but to still be able to engage in development was a pretty significant thing through Be More Me curriculum. Our youth engagement work has included our Be More Me clubs, our Be More Me speaker series, which many of you attend, our Be More Me student conference. I think it's one of the highlights of our year when we just get to see young people be young people. And then our Be More Me student design team, one of the things that has been consistent across the time that we've had Be More Me is that adults need to get out of the way of young people. They are poised to lead in direct alignment with what we say we want for our young people in Portrait of a Graduate. We increased the members of our student design team. We had 3 speaker series events in person at Coppin, Reginald F. Lewis, and Lexington Market. We increased the liaisons and the youth ambassadors, and then our impact projects. You'll see the growth of the number of students who have been engaged through the speaker series attendance from 217 to 345 in just 1 year, an increase of 7 schools from 4, and then an increase in the number of clubs and the number of students who are represented. You'll see here again, just an increase in data of terms of student attendees. I wish Dr. Santelises were in the room, because every year she says we need to get more students there. We need to get more students there and more representation across schools. And we have been doing that. This year's theme was Leveling Up, Conquering Life's Unwritten Rules. And I have to tell you, I'll just let the students speak for themselves. You can see based on the data that students strongly agree and highly agree that they feel encouraged to lead in their community after they engage in this event. They also would highly recommend this event to their peers. So I'm hoping that the technology gremlins will be on my side tonight, because we have a short video to share. Today's Be More Me Student Conference is a space that has been cultivated for students, by students, and it is really important to have these spaces dedicated for students because it impacts their overall well-being. It increases their confidence when they are able to lead without adults in the way. It makes a difference overall in their academic success as well.
students really do have trouble interacting with others if they're not comfortable. And I feel like the Be More Me conference really helped with that by facilitating sessions.
It is important to have spaces like this for young people like me because it helps the community come together, everyone learn new things, become closer, gain more awareness about different social issues and everyone in the community about identity, how to go through life, and I think that's very important for students.
Be More Me started as one of the priorities to bring some level of cultural competency, cultural relativity back into the educational system at Baltimore City Schools. And I think at the right time with the right people, you manifest something such as Be More Me.
And what happens ideally is that they give restorative practices and ideas. For a young person to say wherever you are does not dispel where you're going next. And so I think that this event curates a host of opportunities where they're having conversations with regards to mental health, identity, where you're going next can involve with first identifying who you are. And that's what this event does for everyone.
Today's experience was actually pretty fun, especially with my friends there. It was really nice and cool. I feel that it means that whenever you get knocked down, just keep on going until you succeed. And just believe in yourself. Don't let people back you down.
Some young people they're scared of society and they can't express themselves as much because they're scared that they might embarrass themselves. So I think that this is a perfect place to be so people can learn to be more social and have less anxiety.
Having these spaces for young people gives us an opportunity to understand what it is they need from us, what it is they want from us. It also gives them an opportunity to express their hopes and dreams and desires. So as we are trying to do things around curriculum, as we are trying to do things around athletics and arts and music, we know what it is that the students will actually engage in so that they ultimately benefit.
Yes, you can clap for that. I would also like to mention that one of the board's spotlights, the Scholar Spotlight, Alana Fair, was also invited to attend the conference, and we actually had a rendering of the artwork that she talked about when she came, and we had students taking pictures with it, and she got to meet people, and we introduced her to folks, and so that was a really good opportunity for us as well. Want to thank our communications colleagues for the video, and we should note that 100% of this video was shot by our student media team. So looking ahead, again, after years of collaboration, the curriculum components will go back to our social studies team in the Office of Academics, and that work and that transition has already begun. And so James's work will continue around the youth programming, and we're looking for continued collaboration within our entire office. Moving to the Equity Center Pipeline Initiative, and that is led by Macon Tucker.
Dr. Durant, I'm sorry, just before you leave that piece, and I'm going to let you scoot out, my apologies. I had to address an issue outside, so my apologies. But I do just want to give a particular shout out at this point because the work that the equity team has done to really bring forth the vision of a student-centered, Baltimore-rooted learning experience really does go beyond anything that I would have thought possible in such a short period of time. And the video that we saw there really manifests in my mind, some of what I think of when we talk about equity. And it is young people having access to spaces and experiences that, frankly, a lot of young people in Baltimore City don't get to be a part of. That is their own conference, leading. That's where a lot of the folks in this room got their start, by having spaces where they could present, they could plan, they could have fun and be who they were, and to be safe and to be all the things that they are. And when I look at that conference, it rivals national model UN. It rivals some of the big national conferences. And a lot of that is due to the fact that the equity team knew that they were incubating this work. And as Dr. Durant described, so that pieces like curriculum, right, can go back to social studies and other things. But I do just want to pause and punctuate that this was the school system who sponsored this. Normally, we have to only go to community-based organizations to do something that looks like this because folks think, oh, the school system isn't interested in that. And I just have to say a personal thank you for actually meeting the target of excellence that our young people deserve. It wasn't just slapped together. It wasn't just half-baked. It's a conference that rivals some of the best in the country as far as I'm concerned. And it is centered and grounded in Baltimore with our young people, with them leading. And I just want to give a big thank you just to the equity team, to Dr. Durant, to James, to everybody. Chitamawe was in the early days, helped to do that. And so, it's one of those departing privileges. I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation, but just for people to know this grew from a seed. It grew from an idea. It grew from a desire for our young people to see their experiences validated and to lead in the way that other young people get to lead. And so I just want to say a personal and professional thank you to the team. For bringing excellence. Equity is not words. I'm actually kind of tired of the words, to be honest with you. Equity is about getting the job done. And you did it at a high level. So thank you.
Just going to double down on that. I want to thank James for his work and his leadership and his opportunity to make sure when I came to the conference this past year, I had an opportunity to be introduced to the students who were my guide that day, to see what they were leading, what they were excited about, what they wanted to engage in. And so that work doesn't happen without clear vision and clear execution, which James did. That underscores his work throughout the entire year, not just that day, but just was a big culmination that day. So a lot of kudos for that work.
Thank you. Moving to the Equity Center Pipeline Initiative led by Macon Tucker and our new manager, Kaya Lowry. This work, as you will recall, the last 4 years, we are in year 5 of the 5-year $8.2 million Wallace grant. I feel like it was just yesterday when we were talking about having been awarded this grant, and now this is the 5th year of the grant. We have been able to leverage these resources through development, materials, programming, opportunities for our school leaders, for school teams, for central office. This initiative was really designed to help us to realize a vision of a comprehensive aligned principal pipeline that generates effective school leaders who are really poised to increase outcomes for young people. So this past year, we were able to sponsor participation in 64 conferences and convenings. We had over 145 people participate, everything from book studies to conferences to opportunities to engage across the country with other school leaders, with other districts who are leading pipeline work. The relationship that we have with our schools office in terms of the development of school leaders, of our principal supervisors. I have to, personally say that, Chief Tosay and I and the team, we are in lockstep in everything related to principal and principal development and support. We've had the opportunity to sponsor coaching opportunities and coaching certification for our principal supervisors and our senior principal coaches. We've engaged in a lot of development. I think most recently we were already doing something thanks to Deputy Chief Moore, and then the state came out and did something across the state. We were like, we've already done that. National leadership opportunities and exposure, leaders developing leaders. So we've been able to provide this through the leveraging of those funds. We've been able to offer aspiring leader information sessions. We believe that recruitment is a process, not an event, and Chief Nielsen and I agree on that. And so everything from how someone experiences our website to coming to
and aspiring leaders information session to following up to the principal assessment center and the assistant principal assessment center have all been part of what we've been able to do as we are developing and trying to strengthen what exists in terms of pipeline. The funds that we've gotten from Wallace have allowed us to be able to sponsor our Equity Week, which includes our district office day and our paraeducator symposium. You heard BTU President Brown talk earlier about paraeducator opportunities, and so we have some exciting news to share there as well. And then I think it's really important to note that we spent a lot of time figuring out how we let our principals know that we appreciate the work that they do every day, through something that we did with National Principal Appreciation Day, which we'll talk about. We have a school leader directory. It may sound like a small thing, but there is something about having headshots of our school leaders in a directory, very professionally done. We will have copies of the board for the board when they are complete. And then our annual stakeholders brunch. So speaking about the Paraeducator Symposium, this past year was our second Paraeducator Symposium. The team and I have been talking about doing something for Equity Week, and I said, you know, we've got to do something for paras. Now, note a personal privilege. I had a paraeducator at the time living in my house, and so I had a very particular thought about how are they being developed? Like, what you gonna do with yourself? Who's now a first grade teacher at Barclay Elementary School. Thank you very much. But what I will tell you about the Paraeducator Symposium, my fondest memory is how paraeducators enter that space with their laptops and they think they're going to do all of the things. And we're like, this is about developing you. This is about thanking you for the work that you do every day, because we know that schools could not function without our paraeducators, and we want to pour into you and create opportunities. And so we've been able to get some of our higher education partners to come to review transcripts on site, to admit our paraeducators on site. In this past year, Coppin State University awarded 3 full ride scholarships to 3 paraeducators in the room who had their transcripts. That may seem insignificant to some, but that is huge. Because they are, when we think about our principal pipeline, we think about that. If I come into this organization as a paraeducator and I aspire to be a principal, what's my map to get there? And so that relationship with our higher education partners and human capital and MOUs and all of those things drive the experience that our paraeducators have. So moving on, we also sponsored a district office day because so much of our work is in schools as it should be. And we also understand that the work of central office is to be in service to schools. And so we do a considerable amount of work supporting our central office colleagues. And so the district office day was born out of a need to make sure that central office staff were able to see the alignment of the work that they do every day to the ultimate goals that we set forth as an organization. This past district office day was led by our central office specialist, and it was Pathways to Equity. Every step counts, and so it was really designed to help central office employees see their bodies of work and see the contributions to equitable outcomes for our students. We hosted a leadership symposium that is designed for our assistant principals, our district office staff, resident principals. Principals are not allowed to come. This space is just for those individuals who are aspiring to be leaders, our educational associates. It's a good touch point also with our school leader pipelines and induction team and university partners. National Principals Day. We have taken this opportunity, and I have to credit Macon Tucker with, coming up with the ideas of like what the gifts are going to be. Every time he comes up with an idea, he shows it to me, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it to Dot, and she blesses it, and then we get moving. And I will tell you, it may, again, sound like a small thing, but I will tell you, organizing, getting every principal's name right on whatever we give them, and then figuring out the mapping to which senior leader will go to which schools based on geography. I don't really know how they do it. I just know that I get my list, and senior leaders get their list, and executive directors get their list, and we hand deliver these gifts to our principals during a Principal Appreciation Week. And I will tell you that it may seem like a really small token. It means so much. The tears that I have seen, the tight hugs where people just say, thank you for saying thank you. And so I think this is something that we should definitely continue to do as an organization.
Our district partnership team, you've heard this before, consists of our city schools colleagues in achievement and accountability, communication, engagement, and enrollment, human capital in our schools office, as well as our partners at Maryland State Department of Education, Morgan State University, and Towson University. I want to take a moment and thank our Wallace partners. One, thank Wallace Foundation for the money for 5 years. Thank Rotunda, Dr. Rotunda Floyd Cooper, Jessica Fura, and then our consultant, Dr. Andy Cole. And we continue to have ongoing support from our friends at the Fund for Educational Excellence, Sharon Dondees and Chantel Jackson, who keep us all together. In terms of our leadership spotlight, this past year, the 8 districts decided that they wanted to have regional convenings. City schools partnered with the District of Columbia Public Schools to host the inaugural Wallace Regional Convening. Dr. Santelises and Chancellor Farabee were there talking to the members of the 8 districts. And every time we go to another regional convening, they say, you know, Baltimore set the bar high. You know, yes, we did. And then we had an opportunity to partner with Education Trust around their Black Principal Project, featuring our own principal, Ashanti Porter from Leith Walk Elementary Middle School. So looking ahead, at the end of this grant, we promised to deliver a leadership tracking system, and we are well on track to do so. And then, of course, there's the question of sustainability. We have become very accustomed to the high-level programming, and to Dr. Santelises' point around excellence of what we have been able to do, which does not happen absent considerable resource. And so we're spending this year figuring out how to do that. And we've continued to meet the Wallace deliverables. I think we've done a good enough job, and I will share with you and happy to report that we have been awarded a 6th year of the Wallace grant to continue our work and to help sustain us through the leadership transition. Moving on to our school leader pipelines and induction team, formerly educator pipelines and induction, led by Tracy Frazier, and then Nakia Carter, Tatum Daniels, Dr. McKelly Dunn, Samuel Rather, and Denitria Thomas. So the work of this team is really where we spend a lot of the time doing our Aspiring Leaders programming. There is one-on-one coaching and on-demand coaching. Our early career induction, which includes our new administrator summer orientation, which this year we had like a spirit tunnel as new administrators entered the orientation space, and we had pom-poms and clappers and all of that kind of stuff to welcome our new leaders. We spent a week with them, and they get an opportunity to get some of the best professional development that you could get anywhere. We bring in experts, and we bring in experts from city schools, central office teams, and, you know, principals who are highly effective in their roles to tell them really how to get the job done every day. There's professional development, there's pipeline development that includes leadership roadmaps and pipeline review visits. And now we are helping to support the school leader hiring and placement through assessment center and principal placement, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So again, our SLPI team lead the work around coaching and supporting our assistant principals and principals who are in years 1, 2, and 3. Our iLead residency, our emerging leaders program, and now school leader hiring and placement. This is just a reflection of our caseload from last year to this year. We are bringing on more emerging leaders to help make sure we strengthen the pipeline. We actually have a bench, as well as supporting additional resident principals. Our early career leader experience includes induction coaching and our Talent Development Tuesday. One of the things that I want to say here, and I mentioned already about our partnership with the schools office, I think it's really important to understand the way that we are thinking about our principal pipeline work is really through an organizational effectiveness model around alignment. It is important that we are not doing things without each other. We are trying very hard not to operate in silos. I think Chief Tosay and I probably talk daily, if not several times a day. So something as simple as Talent Development Tuesday means that when the senior team who are in academics and schools office are planning things across the organization for school leaders, we know that Talent Development Tuesday is protected time. We all now have a shared calendar where we're looking at, well, when is TDT?
policy? When is Aspiring Leaders Fair? When are these sessions? When is this conference? So that we are not competing with the time of school leaders, because ultimately what they need to be doing is running their building focusing on instructional leadership. So the induction happens, and then the coaching, which again is on demand as well as one-on-one. Happy to report that through our professional development and coaching, 100% of our first and second year principals returned for this school year. Here's some of the early career survey feedback that we just wanted to, give you a chance to see. I think the one that from the third year principal, it says, my coach was beneficial to my growth as a principal. I appreciate all she has done to support me and my school. I know that when people are going out to visit schools, often Dr. Santelises will come back and she'll ask the principal, who's your coach? What is your coach saying? Same is true of our chief of schools and deputy chief. And if something's going on, they're like, well, what did the coach say? Well, let me get to the coach. And so we're working really hard to make sure that there is alignment between the feedback that our school leaders are receiving, both from their coaches and their principal supervisors. Just wanted to take a moment and speak briefly about our iLead program, which is our internal residency program. You'll see over the years, the numbers of applicants that we've had. That period between 23 and 24 was when we shifted from being fully dependent on a vendor to hybrid programming for the residency. Last year, we launched iLead. We had 33 applicants, and this year we had 50. The impact across the organization, you'll see 100% of schools with resident principals show growth in attendance and MCAP scores. 4 of 5 of our residents were successfully placed as principals this year. The other person is an assistant principal, and this year we've expanded the residency from 5 to 10 residents. We wanted to, and you've heard, some about the data earlier today. One of the things that is important, we think about our program, is that every resident, when they're assigned to a mentor, is responsible for both an academic and a non-academic leadership area. And so the data that you see in front of you reflects the growth that happened at those schools where we had residents. Same is true. That was attendance. Same is true around what you can note for MCAT proficiency in the resident principal schools. So our inaugural cohort, I said this already, we have 4 current principals whose names appear on the screen and 1 assistant principal. Cohort 2 has launched, and here are the names of our residents who are currently in cohort 2. We have high hope for what we will be able to do in terms of placement if needed for next school year. So we're going to continue our investing in our pipeline with the work of aspiring leaders, structured steps, making sure that candidates are focused on the development and support that they need. We're continuing to be in partnership with our targeted pipeline visits and our colleagues in the schools office so that we are supporting our assistant principals and principals and ensuring that the process allows for additional touch point and visibility. School leader hiring and placement earlier this year through conversation with that principal placement team that you've talked about and with our partnership with Human Capital and certainly Dr. Santelises, we moved the school leader hiring and placement component to the school leader pipelines and induction team. And so that allows us to have alignment for the early career coaching, support, and our matching focus. And we are happy to report, and I'm speaking for the whole principal placement team when I say this, that we had 100% of our traditional principal vacancies filled by June 30th. There were some sleepless nights at the end. And then moving to looking ahead, we're going to continue our Aspiring Leaders workshops, our Talent Development Tuesday Assessment Center, which begins in October. So if there are members of the public who want to come work in city schools, we want you to come work here. Please apply. And then our mentor principal orientation and professional development. I think one of the things that is important about this particular slide is that Brian Jones, who's at Highlandtown Elementary Middle 237, actually attended our spring Aspiring Leader session, followed that with applying for the principalship, participating in Assessment Center, was named a principal, has participated in New Administrative Summer Orientation, is now one of our principals. And so he is among two people who were in that spring. The other one was Ryan Stokeland at Katherine Johnson. And so we're really excited. And then want to just take a moment to again thank our friends at the fund, Roger Shulman and Kevin Leary, because they were able to host a welcome event for all of our new principals before they started in their roles. And then finally, the work of our equity specialists, who of all of the teams who are a part of the broader Office of Equity, is the team that's been around the longest. That team led under the supervision of Chidamawe Dakamawanda consists of Dr. Kara Jean, Dr. Marie Parfait, Paige Riggins, and Dr. Casey Smith. And so their work has really been focused in terms of our organizational impact on our school equity action teams. We had schools that completed in-school IRES this last year. We have school equity teams who all of their members, 69 of those teams, all of their members attended IRES. We had over 340 seat meetings and over 1,148 staff who participated in professional development that was led by the school equity specialists. The Equity Symposium, we had over 200 participants, and this was a part of Equity Week. There was a fireside chat with Chief Jones and Chief Tosay and myself. Next year, I think I'm not going to say who they're going to have, but we already have the two people identified. We feel like the fireside chat is really important for this population of colleagues because they rarely get to engage with senior leaders in this way. And it creates the opportunity for our school equity action team members to get a more balcony view of the organization's work, because sometimes when you're in a school or in an office, you get really tunnel vision focused on just your work, but helping people to appreciate how all of the work impacts what we do in city schools is really important. So our school equity action teams, we have 70 active school equity action teams, and there are general educators, there's special educators, there's social workers, there are community school coordinators who serve, assistant principals, para-educators. I mean, we have broad representation across our school equity action team. This past year, we had 12 students who served on high school seats at Mergenthaler and Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. And then one of the things that I think is also important is that these seats represent over 360 people who are committed to the work that happens in schools every day. So another very short video from one of our equity fellows.
The other major piece that has changed over the last year is now that we have 5 students who are members of the SEAT team. So truly getting to hear their voice has been powerful, because what we thought problems were and what they actually are, we found out we had a lot of work to do.
So the specialist team is really focused this year on increasing the number of students who serve on seats. I want to, in full disclosure, say that when we first started the school equity action teams, we encouraged people not to put students on initially. We wanted to make sure that adults had the capacity to be in spaces with young people, showing up as their authentic selves, and making sure that the space was curated so that our students could remain whole when they were showing up as their authentic selves. So some of this work of the school equity teams and the capacity building has been really about readying us to hear the voices of our students in whatever way they share them with us. Here are just examples of the increase in those school equity action teams that meet 6 to 8 times a year. These are considered our highly engaged school equity action teams. I mentioned this earlier in the compliance report around the alignment to the school performance plan. And so this equity action plan, the equity action considerations are born directly out of the alignment to the school performance plan. What you'll see here is our acknowledgement in 23-24 and 24-25 of the schools that began a draft of their equity action plan versus those who completed it. And more importantly,
who completed at least one cycle and then who achieved their success criteria. So what this represents is more of a quality over quantity model of our equity action planning. Wanted to just take a moment and show you like the arc of the development of the school equity action teams, everything from when we had one specialist to establishing the role of what that would be, the launch of our school equity action team, the alignment to the school performance plan, and then the achievement of student success criteria. And so our goal was to make sure that by the end of last year, we had 40% of our priority schools complete an equity action plan. We actually ended the year with 67% of those. And examples of that, those equity action plan goals were around improved performance data on Amplify, reduce failing grades for multilingual learners, reduce suspensions and referrals, DIBELS growth. Those are the kinds of things that show up in the school performance plan that directly show up in the equity action plan. Here are just some examples of our stakeholder survey results in terms of the relationship that our specialists have with their school leaders, as well as the school equity action teams, the impact that they make in doing that work every day. I'm sorry. And then, and then the impact that it has on the student achievement and the broader school community. This is one of, I will say, my favorite data points, because what this represents is when our school equity action team members have questions, they go to the specialist, but what they appreciate most, I think, is that the specialist will direct them to who in the organization they need to be working with to actually get their answers, their questions answered, and their needs met. So here are examples of quotes from our school equity action team members. And continue cross-functional collaboration. You'll see all of the ways that in addition to the work that they lead with schools every day, here are some other examples of work that they are doing to support across our organization. And you'll see our Teacher of the Year, who has been a Learner Fellow, as well as a SEAT team member. And so moving ahead for this team, will be increasing, looking at the equity views that are in the STAR ratings and what that means for cross-functional collaboration, continued development and customizing of the SEAT arc of development, again, readying adults for student voices on SEAT. Finally, some save the dates. Our 5th annual Be More Me Student Conference will be May 28th, 2026. The Maryland Cultural Proficiency Conference, which this is the 10th anniversary. Our theme this year is Meeting the Moment Together in Solidarity and Community. And then Equity Week 2026, April 27th to May 1st, 2026. As I close and pause for questions, I want to offer my thanks to this incredible group of individuals that I get to work with every single day. They are certainly among the hardest working people I've ever worked with. We walk beside each other. Sometimes they're in front, sometimes I'm in front, sometimes we're side by side, sometimes they're picking me up, which they do every day, as evidenced by the fact that they are all here this evening. I want to publicly thank them for their leadership and for their dedication to this work. It is a hard time to be doing this work. And I couldn't think of a group of people I would rather be shoulder to shoulder with at this time. I want to thank the board for your continued leadership, my cabinet colleagues, and then finally, since this is the last update I will do while you are in that seat and I am in this one, Dr. Santelises, I want to thank you for that gentle nudge to consider city schools, to consider leading this work. Thank you for all of the ways that you have trusted me and the team to do this work, to do it in a way that felt integritous to me. And I just don't really have the words to say how having served in this role under your leadership has forever impacted my life, and I am eternally grateful to have served in your administration.
Thank you so much, Dr. Durant, for all of the work that you do and lead. I'm just asking my board colleagues for any questions or comments they may have.
30-second comment.
Great job.
Yeah. My comment is along the same lines, which is you said it's a difficult time to be doing equity work. I think that is the understatement of the year. There are so many things happening in the world around us that are actively destructive to members of our community. And it couldn't be a more important time to be doing this work. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but this board has your back. We appreciate the work that you do. We see all of you. Thank you for the work that you do. And this is a place where that work is welcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durant.
Thank you.
Item 5.02, so item 5.02 was scheduled to be a presentation this evening. We are going to transform that into a written set of updates on readiness for the school year. I do want to thank the entire schools team for the presentation that they have put together. But we'll take that under consideration and prepare that and roll that into our future conversation. So a set of written updates will be coming. So I want to thank Stacy. I want to thank Calvin. I want to thank Cora and team and others who are not here, not named, for putting together tonight's presentation, but we'll defer that into a written update to the board.
And just to clarify, so the written update is the presentation.
Okay, nothing else additional than that? All right, we can help. We can take that. Thank you so much. All right, notice of upcoming meetings. So teaching and learning, as Commissioner Slater-Harrington mentioned, will be convening on September 9th. Safety and wholeness will be on the 11th. Operations committee on September 15th. Our next full board meeting will be on September 16th at 5:30 p.m. and followed by the policy committee meeting on September 30th. Just want to remind the public that we will have a set of 7 engagements for the CEO search beginning the week of September 15th, which more information is to come via flyers and more information on our website. Is there a motion to adjourn?
May I say, oh, wait 1 second. I wanted to say something before we leave.
Please.
I want to publicly thank and acknowledge our Board of Commissioners. Many people think that our work is what we do on Tuesdays, and it is not. We're working every day. All of us have other jobs. Commissioners, I believe, are more engaged than ever. All of us are doing multiple projects and multiple things, and we had commissioners who were here all day long serving us. So I cannot allow us to go any minute longer. So thank you all. I wanted to say that publicly and on the record. Your work is not going unnoticed, and let's keep on working together to make Baltimore City schools great. Motion to adjourn. All right.
Is there a second?
Esposito.
I'm gonna take Commissioner Simmons. I saw the hand. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Okay.